Hello everyone, Time to Grind here, and today I wanted to talk about West of Dead. And West of Dead is a really cool looking dark cowboy game, and it has me so conflicted. But before I get into the review, I do just want to give a disclaimer that I was given a free copy of this game in order to make a review for it. I never let that influence my reviews, I just like staying transparent for you all. But let's just jump into it. So, West of Dead is a new cover-based twin-stick shooter roguelite with a really dark and awesome looking art style, and it has some very solid gameplay to go along with it, but there are a couple of things that the game does that just makes it fall short for me. So first of all, I do kind of want to just explain how the game works. So in it, you play a dead cowboy guy that kind of finds himself in purgatory, and he keeps dying and coming back to purgatory, and you can't really figure out, why he's there. And you start off a run, and you get two random weapons that you can use actually at the same time. And you can also find later in the game, and later in the runs, equipment, and you can equip them, and you can have two different equipment pieces on you at once. So when you go into an enemy room, you pretty much immediately start getting attacked by enemies. And with this being a cover-based game, you can duck behind cover, and when you're behind cover, you actually can't be hit. Even if you're aiming at enemies, you can't be hit. The downside is, though, that eventually they will hit the cover enough time, and it'll actually destroy the cover, and you'll have to find some other cover. And when you're aiming, you can only aim at enemies that are actually lit by light. And as you can see with the gameplay, this is a very dark game. Most rooms are like almost halfway pitch black, and the game kind of forces you into this kind of weird lock-on system. So it's a twin-stick shooter, but you can't really aim freely. Instead, the game locks onto enemies, but if they're in the dark, you can't shoot them. So you have to either run over to different lights and turn them on, which will stun enemies temporarily as well, or use items or weapons like a flare gun or a lantern that you could potentially find in different runs. And the enemies hurt you almost as much as you hurt them. So if you get shot by an enemy, it is going to hurt. And they take like a fifth or sixth of your health away, depending on what you're getting hit by. And some of the later enemies really hurt. I mean, there's some things that can either almost insta-kill you or just flat out insta-kill you. And so the game is really brutal, and it really makes you need to take cover seriously and actually, kind of play slow and methodical. And besides the lock-on system being a little weird, and it does kind of make me want a free fire mode and not require the, kind of lock-on system, because then I think it'd be cool to fire into the dark, because, you're probably going to be missing, but you could still actually do it. But overall, even with the lock-on system being weird, I do overall like the gameplay at its core. It's somehow both slow and methodical, while also occasionally, forcing you to be aggressive to turn on different light sources and, to be able to hit enemies. The problem with this game, though, is not the core gameplay, but it's kind of how the core gameplay is presented. And so the first issue I have with the game is the progression. And I will say it every single time I review a roguelite. I think roguelites live or die by their progression systems, and this game's progression is a little bland. So as you kill enemies, they drop sin that you can spend at a witch between levels that allows you to unlock new weapons and items for future runs. The problem is, though, is that a lot of the weapons ultimately play and feel the same as each other or just very similar, and some of the items are just not very exciting. Also, when you're going through runs, you will sometimes find weapon chests that give you, a cool gun or cool equipment or something like that, but you also find these upgrade stations throughout the world. The problem is that every time you upgrade, instead of getting like a cool random passive upgrade that does a different thing, and there's a ton of different upgrades, you always pick from the exact same 3 different upgrades, and they're all just stat upgrades. So the first choice is always just a buff to your health and melee damage. The second is always just a buff to your weapon damage, and the third is always just a buff to your equipment damage and cooldowns. So it starts to feel the same and bland really quickly because you just keep doing the same exact thing. You keep getting different weapons that all feel overall kind of similar and equipment that kind of feel similar or have similar purposes, and you upgrade your character with the same boring stat changes every single time. On top of that, enemy variety starts to feel the same after a couple of runs, and this game is definitely more on the challenging side, so, you know, it's totally fine, but when you inevitably die over and over and over, you really start to get tired of having to go through the first couple of floors without much difference between the runs. It all kind of just starts to feel the exact same. Another issue I have with the game is it has its fair share of bugs and just polish issues. I had a bug where I fell off of a higher platform and I like disappeared into a void or something, and I just kept losing health until I died and lost the run. I also had a bug where I couldn't take cover on something, and instead I was kind of just like sliding and morphing through it. And sometimes, you know, the graphics and the walls and stuff, I think it might be because of the camera angle, they kind of just like pop in and out, and it's kind of jarring sometimes and just kind of really weird. And just, you know, some of the design issues really annoy me. Like, sometimes you walk into a room and a suicide bomber is just like there and immediately kills you and ends your run that you spent 30 minutes on. You know, to be fair, I had low health, but, you know, it's still kind of just annoying. Also, sometimes there are ladders that you have to climb up to like a higher, you know, platform, and there's just an enemy waiting for you, and so you can't fire, you know, at an angle, so you know that you have to just climb up there and hopefully be able to dodge out of the way or kill them faster. But it's just kind of annoying. I don't like that they can just be there waiting directly on top of the ladder that you have to climb. And so there are a lot of negatives I personally have with this game, but I do find myself so conflicted with it because, firstly, I absolutely adore the art style and the theme of this game. I love the dark and gritty cowboy theme, and I love the voice acting of Ron Perlman as the main character. I know some people were complaining that he doesn't feel as upbeat or anything like that, but I think that's kind of the point because he's just this guy dying over and over and over, finding himself in purgatory, and he's kind of downtrodden about it. So I really liked his voice acting. I think it ties it together. I loved the art style and the theme. I think it, you know, makes it really unique. The gameplay, like I said, is solid enough to keep you interested at the very least for a couple of hours. And I feel that a lot of the complaints I have with the game might stem just simply from the fact that I am a huge fan of roguelite games, and that's some of the games I review the most, and I have played some of the best this genre has to offer, and so I think I'm just a little disappointed on that front, and, you know, with kind of the longevity of replayability with this game, because, you know, roguelites I expect to have a lot of replayability value, and I feel like some of the replayability in this game is kind of just artificial by just you have to grind a lot of sin to, you know, get some of the more upgrades. So I would recommend this game if you are okay spending $20 on kind of just a couple of hours of fun, mainly because you want to experience the, you know, kind of art style and the gameplay, but don't buy it if you're expecting to have some like innovative and revolutionary roguelite mechanics, you know, because it is kind of lacking on that front and kind of in terms of the polish area and just design choices in my opinion. But I do think that a lot of people can have fun with this game. In fact, you know, I think the game has mostly positive reviews, so I think it is just me being nitpicky with kind of the roguelite mechanics, and, you know, just I was expecting more from this game, unfortunately. Also, something that just kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit is there is already a $3 DLC at launch, which I know isn't much, but it includes a cosmetic, which is whatever, but it includes also a new level, a new enemy, and a new weapon, and there already is kind of a lack of variety. So to already be hiding, you know, content that is clearly, you know, out on day one behind DLC, I don't like that at the launch of the new game. It just kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth. But, you know, overall, I think some people could enjoy this game. I just, you know, personally kind of nitpicked it a little too much, and I personally did not enjoy it. But I'd love to know your guys' opinions if you've played it, obviously, or just, you know, by watching. I love talking with you guys, so let me know in the comments down below your guys' thoughts on this. Also, guys, we just hit 3,000 subscribers on the channel, and I just wanted to give you guys a thank you. I didn't want to make a, you know, separate video for it or anything, but I really want to thank you guys. You know, I couldn't do it without you guys, and I love every single one of you, and I love the community that we are creating here. So, you know, thanks for 3,000, and hopefully we'll be hitting 5,000 at some point soon. That's the next milestone. But if you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see more content. I make a new review 1 to 2 times a week just on a wide variety of games, so subscribe to check more out in the future. And if If you guys are having a great day today, I hope you continue having a great day. If you guys aren't having a great day, I hope you guys start having a great day. But either way, guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. See you guys next time.